Popcorn World. Popcorn World.
Can I make you groove now? Yes, I can. So you can get this groove in the back of a can. I can make it round the world when the holes in your hand. Popcorn World. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. That's that popcorn make you smile. Ah. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. It's a popcorn world. It's a popcorn world.
You're now listening to BLEAV in the ACC with Heisman Trophy winner and Florida State legend, Mr. Charlie Ward, Wave 3 TV, and Fern Creek Hall of Famer Kendrick Haskins, and Mr. Talking Noise himself, and of course Mama Noise's man, Lloyd Spence. And now, it's time for BLEAV in the ACC.
Man, we are glad to be here with you guys today. It is a wonderful, wonderful sunny here in the state that I'm in. Sunny and cold.
We're expecting snow flurries and stuff today.
Yeah, sunny and cold. I don't even want to ask Charlie because I know it's nice in Florida. I know it's just like pristine and just.
He looked like it's cold in Florida.
It's cold in Florida?
No.
It's dipping a little bit.
What's a little bit, Charlie? What are we talking? 40, 55, 65?
I'm not sure what the number is, but I haven't been outside this morning either. But it's supposed to get cold.
Okay.
It is supposed to get cold in Florida. I did see that. It is supposed to get cold in Florida.
Well, welcome to our world, Charlie. Goodness gracious. You can't have beautiful weather all the time.
I coach basketball, so
Touche, Charlie. Touche.
That's why I always look forward to the end of football season so I can stop going outside.
That part as well. Listen, I agree because standing on the sidelines in November is not the most fun thing to do.
No, that's not it.
I remember a couple of times when we, Kendrick and Charlie, you're like this, and Kendrick and I, they'll be like, Louisville would have a decent season. They'd be like, well, we announced the game. This was going to be in Orlando. Yes. That's a beautiful. Those words are music to our ears.
They played many a bowl game in Orlando too. And you always stay at that same hotel that has at the same time that you're down there for a bowl game, there's a ballroom dancing convention. So there's all these ballroom dancers walking around. There's displays for different kind of ballroom dancing shoes and all this stuff. Yeah. It's quite good.
It's a good time had by all, Charlie. It's a good time had by all.
So, it is. I actually missed that trip because it is a fun trip.
It was a fun trip. I had a ball. I ain't gonna lie to you. We had a great time. All right, so listen. We're in a very interesting place in the ACC right now. 2 weeks left before we settle the regular season and head to the ACC championship. And I would say we're in the controlled destiny part of our season. SMU seems to have a direct line to the ACC championship. I would say Miami as well. And Clemson could be the team.
They don't control their destiny, though.
Huh?
I don't think they control their destiny, though, right? They need
I think it depends on which ACC standings you choose to look at, and also what the tiebreakers are. So technically, Clemson has the better. I think they have the better. Do they have the better record? Or let's look at the standings real quick, and that's what I was trying to decipher because it was kind of confusing. So Clemson, SMU, and Miami are technically 9-1 and 8 and
Clemson's 8-2.
Clemson's 8-2 overall. But who has the most wins is Clemson. So by the technical letter of the law, by most wins, they are second because they have 1 or 2 wins more than Miami, right? And that's just the way the schedule works because Clemson technically got started before Miami this season.
Right.
And Clemson doesn't play any more conference games. They're done with
Clemson doesn't play any more conference games. That's the problem. And SMU has 2 left, and Miami has 2 left. So Miami and SMU control their destiny, although Clemson has already kind of controlled its destiny. Like it's done everything that it needed to do to get into the ACC championship game. So
if Miami loses, Clemson's in. And then I would think if they were both to lose, Clemson's in. Really, they just need Miami to lose.
I think it's Miami that has to lose, although I don't know how the CFP plays in any of this, because if it's a rankings thing, then if SMU were to stumble, and that would make them 6-1, would they still control their path? Because technically, they would have the same record as Clemson. I would think that SMU would stumble out of the CFP ranking of 13, and they'd probably fall somewhere around. It'd be under Clemson. The TV show at that point would also kick in because
the TV show wouldn't kick in. I think looking at the next deciding detail would be ranking. So if SMU loses and Miami wins, they're all 7-1,
right?
And so I think at that point it would end up being Clemson and Miami because SMU would fall out of it because unless they put them ahead of Clemson in the rankings, which I doubt that would happen.
Which I doubt would happen. Right. Right.
That would be a loss at Pittsburgh. And so I think if SMU wins out, and if all of it went out, I think it ends up being SMU Miami.
Right. If the win out is SMU Miami. If they don't, and SMU stumble, and really this is about as much about SMU as it is about Miami. If SMU is the one that stumbles, then it's a real issue. But here's with Charlie. I bring this to you. We don't want them to stumble, and tell us why. And you've been harping on this for the last few weeks. Tell us why they can't stumble at this point.
Why? Who can't stumble?
SMU and Miami.
Well, one of them. We do know that one of them will make it to the CFP.
Right.
Like they're secured that part. Like whoever wins the ACC will get in. Now everyone else that they were talking about a 2-bid league in the beginning, but now if either one of those teams stumble, that you're talking about, Miami or SMU, I think it'll just be a 1-bid league.
That's where I was going.
So because they don't see the ACC as a tough league, which if you're playing Power 5 or not Power 5, but Power 4 Division I teams, I think it's all tough,
right?
Regardless of which conference you're in. Now, like I tell people, the SEC, the reason Texas and Oklahoma went to the SEC was for the money. Let's be honest. And yes, the competition is great and all those things, but they went over there for the money. And they also went over there because the SEC has all the power, and the Big Ten is in the same boat. They control the CFP, and so when you're in cahoots together, then you make the majority of the rules, and then you bring everybody else to the party. And so that is, to me, the fundamental reason why they can't be in control. And then on top of that, you have people watching the games, and yes, you could probably have a SEC tournament for the national championship, or a Big Ten tournament for the national championship.
Right.
If you start looking at, talking about, who's the best teams and what have you. But to me, that's just discounting everybody else. And that is not a national society that you should ever look at. Because if you look at the NCAA in basketball, you probably could have, most times you have like the most deserving guys, but you have more teams. And every league has an opportunity. And there are some teams that could compete in the NCAA tournament from smaller leagues that get passed over because they're in a smaller league. And so that, to me, shouldn't be the case. Like, if you're deserving and you've earned the right to be in there, who's to say a team can't beat a team for one game? We've seen that.
It happens all the time. In those mid majors, as Lloyd and I can attest to, is people who attended the schools in the OVC. Your team could win the regular season title, which should have more weight, have one bad game in the conference tournament, and they're out of the NCAA tournament.
100%. And Charlie, that was one of the reasons why I wanted you to speak on it, because you've been a strong advocate for more fairness in the visual judgment of these seasons, and we are 100% on board with what you're saying. And what makes this interesting, the reason why I put the rankings of these particular 5 teams, because really what we're talking about going to the finish line, it looks like there's going to be probably 3 to 4 Big Ten teams and 3 to 4 SEC teams that have already locked up 8 of the spots. So if that's true, then the last 4 remaining spots,
because you have a P5 team that gets in there too.
Right. There's going to be a P5 team. So it looks like the last 4 remaining spots are going to go to one of these 5 teams, or 2 of these 5 teams. Right. One of the teams is going to get in because they won their conference. The other one, we don't know. And here's what's interesting about the other one, is that, again, and we harp on this show a lot because it's true. At the end of the day, it's a TV show that has to produce ratings, has to produce marketability, has to produce eyeballs to the screens. Well, when you look at these 5 teams, 3 of them are brands in Miami, Clemson, and Colorado now. Colorado, and really, Colorado is not a brand, but it has a brand.
It has a brand at the.
It has a brand tied to it. So those are the most watchable teams from a TV perspective. So because that's why Colorado made that big. That and the fact that BYU stumbled this past week. And by the way, if you look at their schedule, it is a stumbleable schedule going to the finish line. They have 2 very quote unquote losable games, especially this weekend with Arizona State. That is, I think it's Arizona State on the road, as a matter of fact. That is a very losable game to an Arizona State team who is playing very well. Let's be clear. It is as likely that Arizona State is going to play Colorado in the Big 12 as it is BYU playing Colorado in the Big 12.
And Colorado doesn't have an easy route either. They still have Kansas.
Well, and that's where I was headed. Colorado can't stumble this weekend either, but from an ACC perspective, if either of those things happen, that's the only path, or if both those things happen, that's the only path for, I think, the ACC to get a second team in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But both those things would have to happen, especially the Colorado side. More so the Colorado side than I think the BYU side. Because I think you can make a reasonable case for a second ACC team against the BYU schedule. Because the Big 12 top to bottom has not looked the best. But you can, when you compare conferences. But BYU doesn't have, with no disrespect to their squad, but they don't have the name. They don't have the marketability. So if you're sitting there and if you're sitting on that committee and you're saying, well, who's going to give us the rating? It's Colorado and it's Clemson, or it's Colorado and an upcoming Kevin Jennings, or it's Colorado and a Heisman Trophy.
It ain't Kevin Jennings either. It's Colorado and Miami, Clemson.
Agreed. Above everything, it's Miami and Clemson who have that path. SMU's got to win. That's to me, that's their only real path to getting in.
The good thing is, I heavily favor them to get there.
100%. Well,
I think they have a bye week this week, and then they play Pittsburgh to close it out.
No, SMU's got to play this weekend.
You are correct. Hold on.
Yeah, SMU's got to play this weekend. So I was going and so I'll give you the last remaining game.
Yeah, they're at Virginia. They play at Virginia. That's right.
Yeah. Well,
and then they get Cal at home too, so they do have.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the remaining game. So SMU has Virginia and Cal. They got to go to Virginia. They got Cal at home. Clemson has the Citadel this weekend, which okay. But Dabo has traditionally used the weekend before the South Carolina game as a tune-up game every year since the beginning of time. So this is nothing new. But it's Citadel, South Carolina.
The South Carolina game is not a.
That's where I was going.
That's what I said. He has a tune-up game before that game every year.
Yeah,
but that's where I'm going, out of the SEC.
That South Carolina game is not a gimme this year. It is not a gimme. And from a tiebreaker perspective, that's a losable game. That is a losable game. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, Miami has Wake Forest and Syracuse, but the Syracuse game is in Syracuse, which makes that one very, very interesting because Syracuse would like nothing more than to destroy Miami's season on their home field. They would love that. So my question to you gentlemen is, gut feeling on a Thursday on November 21st, your gut is telling you the final two teams will be who?
I'm still going SMU Miami.
Okay.
I think a lot has to happen for Clemson to get in. And so SMU and Miami, I think.
Man, who knows? I mean, you sit here today and these teams, who thought Miami was going to lose to Georgia Tech?
Right.
With Cam Ward having the football, or even before the game. I know Haynes King played, but even with that, you didn't expect Miami to lose. So who knows, like, what's going to, even with the CFP, I mean, we're sitting here talking about these other teams that may or may not get in, Big 10 or SEC. I mean, they still have games remaining. Some are cupcakes, but some do have a tough game, at least one tough game left.
Yeah.
On the schedule. Well, some of them are robbery games. So you take like Texas. I mean, they're playing Texas A&M at the end of the year, I do believe. And so those two teams are, I think, at the top of the SEC. And they both have one loss in the SEC. So that game, to me, can tell a lot as well. Are they two of the best teams? I mean, probably it could be, but the, I just say, the SEC went to this model of 16 or 18 teams for the resources, and with those resources come, you know, games that you have to play.
Yeah.
Can't be That's their fault that they want all the good, all the teams that they say are good in their conference. You know, that's your job. You made the schedules. So, um, but at the end of the day, you know, I just think ACC, you have to, the teams that you want to win out, you need to have them win out, just so
Yeah.
we can have a chance to have, um, two teams that people feel like can compete. Which I think our top three teams, Clemson, um, SMU, and Miami. I mean, I think they can compete in the CFP. I think they have teams that can make it happen.
It's interesting. The very thing as fans that we all clamor for, which is parity, is actually hurting most of the teams that are not in the SEC or the Big Ten. It's like the thing that actually makes their conferences bad. And it's weird because why is it good for two leagues but not good for the rest?
Parity is good for two leagues. Everybody else
Can't have parity. There must be dominant.
There must be one dominant team. Yeah,
that's so wild.
Right.
But anyway, that's where we are. So,
and the funny thing is though, it's more names than it's too, because Indiana's not getting any respect.
Correct.
They're not.
True, too.
They're not. And ironically, they may be. We don't know. We'll find out a lot this weekend. Obviously, they may be the best team in the Big Ten. We'll see.
But
But
Ohio State, right?
right,
Yeah, they play
got
at Ohio State. Ohio State's a 13.5-point favorite in that game.
Yeah.
That's
Well, speaking of games, let's look at what just went down this past week. This was
the
without
dumbest loss.
question,
The dumbest loss of the season.
maybe one of the dumbest losses I've ever seen in a football game. It's very specifically, I know it's the dumbest loss I've ever seen Louisville have.
And that's saying something because they've had some doozies over the years.
And Louisville's had some doozies, but this one was back-to-back penalties that basically. How about Stanford didn't even have to do anything, and they were rewarded 35 yards worth of penalties at the end of this game. The first one was ridiculous. I don't understand. And was the first one also Quentin Bailey? Was that also him as well?
No, that was Tayon Holloway.
Tayon Holloway. Okay, I couldn't remember who it was, but he grabbed his leg at the end of the play on the sideline, trying to trip him.
He's twisting his leg when they're already laying out of bounds. Then gets up and pushes the. What are you doing?
Which gave him a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah,
and then getting back in the game. I said Bailey was Riley, right?
Christy Riley,
right?
Who was awful all game long too.
He was worst day. And by the way, I'm talking about a kid who's probably going to play on Sundays for sure. He's a great. Most days he's a great corner. Saturday was not one of those days. But he had the game deciding play and an offsides penalty that I'm going to go to my grave saying that 5 yards made all the difference.
Hell yeah.
Because
the kick barely got over the crossbar.
Yeah, it was a 57 to a 52, and I just didn't see it in the demeanor of the kicker. I don't think he had that 57 in. I feel like he was going to miss that kick. But giving him those 5 yards made all the difference. Louisville loses the game. And
let's not let Brahms skate either on going for 4th and 10 on the 45 to begin with.
Right. That wasn't a smart play as well, which was. And by the way, I understand the analytics of it all.
It was a tie score, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a tie score. I do understand the analytics of it all, and when I say of it all, I'm not just talking about college, but I'm talking about pro as well. Because we saw a couple of games in the pros that exact same thing happened, and you're going, I get it, I do get it. I just think it's dumb. I just think that's a dumb way. I just think that's a ridiculous way. I think you're overthinking it at that point because the bird in the hand will always be better. I know the bird in the hand is always going to be better than the two in the bush. Always. That's just how it is. And so, I don't know. I just don't understand why coaches are overthinking this at this stage of our lives. Now,
and not only going for it, but then you throw a pass to the end zone.
Right.
Which is has an even lesser chance of being completed.
I get the whole knockout thing, but it just made no sense.
Do a go route in double coverage.
Yeah. it made no sense. So anyway, unbelievable ending to that game. Clemson and Pitt was a really great game. And Pitt played reasonably well for the most of the game. Pitt played well for 57 minutes, actually.
Well, they were down. Pitt was down.
Well, but when I say they played well, they held Klubnik from a rushing perspective down pretty well. Like they only had like 8 yards, right? Going into that last
They had
play,
the Russian attack down.
Yeah,
they were down like 17-6 or it was whatever the number was, and they came back the second half and started catching up, and Clemson couldn't put them away because they had multiple opportunities to try to score or what have you. They didn't trust the kicking game, or they don't trust the kicking game, so they weren't able to kick field goals when they moved the football, and that kept Pitt in the game. But Pitt did well to get back, keep it interesting in the second half to tie it up, and then or go ahead, I should say.
Right.
They went ahead, and then they allowed Klubnik to escape from a quarterback draw, which was
and I guess, Charlie, to your point, I guess when I say Pitt played well, what I mean by that is to hold an offense that had been putting up some really great numbers most of the season. They kind of
held them to 17 points until that last Klubnik run.
Right. Phil Maffa, let's just look at his stats alone. 17 carries for 17 yards.
Yeah.
And he's the kid has been basically from, holding him down the last few weeks in rushing. And to make Klubnik throw 41 times, that keeps you in the game. That's what gave them the opportunity to get back in the game in the first place. So that's what I mean when I say I don't, and then doing that without Eli Holstein, I don't think you could have asked for them to do more. Like Nate Yarnell, the backup quarterback, 350 yards.
Yeah, he played well for his first start.
Nobody expected that. So you're 100% correct that they didn't score early, but they did enough from a defensive perspective to give themselves a chance, and they had a chance. And then, Klubnik. One thing I will say about Klubnik that I will give him credit for.
Oh.
He has become, I know, it's shocking, breaking news on ACC. He has become a much better pocket awareness pass player than he has been in the past. And that understanding of when to run is better than it's been his entire career. Like that was such awareness on Saturday. I was like, wow, that he read that perfect.
Let me just, I don't mean to burst your bubble on that deal, but that was a call run. It was an empty formation.
Yeah.
Which means there's no backs in the backfield. And so the option that you have as a quarterback out of the empty formation is if you have numbers in the box, then you take the run. If you don't, you make the quick pass, whatever the quick pass is called on. So he had the numbers in the box. And so if you want to say his awareness was great to take it,
Right.
then great. So we'll just say that. We want to give you credit for giving him credit.
Charlie, the one time I want to give him credit and you snatch it away from him. Listen, nobody appreciates you snatching away from him more than me. So,
it was great awareness to make the right decision.
He made the right decision.
Yeah,
he could easily run into one of his linemen.
Charlie, I don't even shade him that much. Like that. But it was a good play. It was a good play. It was a good play.
But Clemson, just to go back, Clemson shot themselves in the foot all night. All day in the second half. They dropped a lot of passes, missed a lot of throws. The run game wasn't there for sure, but they didn't help themselves. They dropped a lot of passes that were.
Their second half of the season has not been great to me.
No, it hasn't. No,
and which gives me concern for whether they make the ACC championship or even the CFP. They got a lot to clean up.
If they make the CFP and lose, they're not going. I mean, if they make the ACC championship and lose, Clemson's not going to the CFP.
Right. They're not going anywhere. Yeah, I just think they got a lot to clean up between now and then. If it were to happen. Because I don't feel good about the way they're coming down the stretch, and I'm sure Dabo doesn't either. Syracuse and California, the bloom was off the rose. California was not able to sustain their success. Syracuse went on the road and took care of business. Getting the win. There and holding off California's fourth quarter, comeback or attempt at a comeback, and they got the win. So there you go.
California is the team that can throw a monkey wrench into everything.
Good, because they may find a Stanford-like inspiration going down the stretch. Kyle McCord, 323 yards. Which is probably not what you want him to do, 29 and 46. It's a lot of slinging it around. Got a really good production day from the running game. LaQuint Allen got 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a really good day. What do we think about Fernando Mendoza, just real quick? He's an interesting quarterback to me because he puts up solid numbers every week. He just feels like he doesn't have a lot of help.
Girl. There you go.
I don't know what his touchdown totals are, but he does put up a lot between the 20s.
He doesn't have that many touchdowns, actually. He only has 13 touchdowns to 6 interceptions.
Yeah. But again, I think it's just because he doesn't have a lot of help.
But he's efficient. I mean, he's on the season, he's completed 240 out of 350.
Yeah.
So he's definitely efficient. And he's seen 13 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. It's not great, but it's still 2-1. So
he may be a couple of decent receivers.
I mean, he has more yard. He has more passing yards than Jennings.
Well, I was gonna say he may be a couple of decent receivers from having a kind of a breakout season. Like I like what he does, and he doesn't seem to beat himself a lot. So I don't know. He's interesting to me. He's very, very interesting to me.
I'd keep an eye on him because he's just a sophomore and he's born in Miami, and Miami's going to be looking for a quarterback next season.
Well, listen, transfer portal. I'm just saying. Stay tuned. Notre Dame did Notre Dame-like things, beat Virginia. Virginia was going to always struggle with this one on the road.
Notre Dame's my dark horse to win this whole thing.
Really?
I was going to say they're solid. They've been playing solid football, especially defensively. That's where they have a chance. To me,
my only thing with Notre Dame is I kind of put them in the same boat as Tennessee. I don't trust them in a big game. but they're playing well enough right now that if they get the right draw, get the right path, they can make it all the way to the championship game.
Well, I'll say this: shout out to Coach Freeman for coaching his behind off in the fact that they lost a horrific game, maybe the worst loss of all CFP teams, and turning the entire season around. Now, let's be clear, you had a great schedule to do that, so it kind of worked out. But at the same time,
so
you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to go win those games.
So let me just go off of that, schedule piece, which I totally understand and get 100. But they haven't been just beating teams.
Yeah, they beating them down.
So to me, if you're going to play a soft schedule, let's call it soft, then you have to dominate the teams.
That's what Indiana's been doing too. Yeah.
And that's what they've been doing. So if you're considering yourself to be one of the top tier teams, you can't go and beat teams barely. I think they may have had a couple games like that early on, but since these last 4 or 5 games, they've been rolling teams. I mean, I think they beat Navy, by triple digits.
Who was ranked at the time?
Who was ranked?
Undefeated,
Unranked and undefeated. Yeah.
And so I just say they
could
have
be held
a
for
chance.
treason.
They have a chance because even though the schedule's weak, when you talk about, like you say, Indiana, I mean, it may be their year just to have an opportunity to do it, because every year may not be like this where you have a soft schedule, or the teams that you put on your schedule, they may have a good year or maybe doing well. I mean,
by the way, Charlie, where have we seen this before? Oh, that's right, last year with Michigan, because that's exactly how Michigan got to the championship game. They didn't play a juggernaut schedule last year, but
well, I mean, let's be honest. The Big Ten is not a juggernaut conference, and we're being completely honest. They just have the money. It's extremely top heavy. And it's 4 teams this year, but over the past few years, it's been 3. The only reason why it's 4 teams this year is because Oregon's in there. And now Indiana's having a season which was schedule friendly. But the thing is, though, you talk about Indiana's schedule, and to Charlie's point, they blowing out everybody. Like the common opponent between them and Ohio State had to fight tooth and nail to beat Nebraska, and Indiana beat them 56-7.
Right.
So Indiana's for real. I mean, they may lose on Saturday, but I've watched them enough to watch how they play. Roark is as good of a quarterback as there is in the conference. They're a legit team in that even if they lose, they still probably should make the CFP, and probably actually would work out better for them if we're being honest. If they do go ahead and lose this game, because then they don't have to worry about the Big Ten championship game, because they lose that game, then they're going to be out of it anyway. Right. And so I think Indiana is every bit as deserving to be up there as they are.
So let's just throw this out here. What if Indiana wins the game?
Well, Charlie, that's
they'll be the number 1 team in the country.
So
Charlie, that's where I was actually headed.
So again,
I said that's exactly where I was actually headed, because I'm not
sold on Ohio State.
Indiana has nothing to lose on Sunday. And what I mean by that,
they have a coach who
supposed to be here anyway.
They have a coach who is supremely confident. It's borderline cocky. It is, but it's hilarious. I love Coach Signay. He's fantastic. I love every one of his press conferences. The man is a gem. So,
no question.
So when you have a coach that exudes confidence like that, and Charlie, I'm sure you can attest to it, the team feeds off of that. And they've adapted his personality. Like, we go in there and beat anybody. And I would not be surprised if they go into Columbus and win that game. And they would be the number 1 team in the country if they did it. And
Ohio State is beatable. Let's be clear. If you've watched them play this year, that's a beatable team.
And it would be the final unreasonable nail in Ryan Day's coffin at Ohio State.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you the truth. He may be the most I'm winning, but my job is on the line coach ever.
It's
because
unbelievable.
if he loses to Indiana at home, the Ohio State people are going to go ballistic. They are truly going to go, which is crazy to me. But that's how it is.
Him and the Eagles coach, those two.
Toronto.
Yeah, they've done more winning for a fan base that wants them fired than any team.
Than any other coach. Well, no. You listen. LSU just called. They said, "Hey, don't forget about it."
Like
Right.
Right. I wanted to say that to you when you
it.
saying that Notre Dame had the worst loss. I'm like, Ole Miss would like to have a word serve at that loss to Kentucky.
Touche. But Ole Miss has rebounded quite well, though. To your point, Ole Miss is. I think Lane is safe for now. I think
Lane's always safe. They're not
right.
Get rid of him. Yeah. He's the best coach in the history of that school.
That's why I don't understand what Ole Miss people are talking about. Because I'm saying you don't really have a lot of options.
And shout out to my boy Watkins from Louisville Butler High School. He's had a heck of a season down there for Ole Miss.
All right, we'll run through these as well. SMU took care of business against Boston College. Honestly,
It wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy. Boston College definitely gave them a fight, but SMU in the second half, particularly in that third quarter, they did just enough to kind of keep them at bay and hold on and survive it. Kevin Jennings.
That's all it is. It's all it's about, surviving advance.
Surviving advance is the name of the game. Kevin Jennings had a decent day. Brashard Smith had a fantastic day. He was 18 carries, 120 yards. He had a fantastic day. But just enough. And Grayson James was the quarterback for Boston College in that one. Boston College, I don't know.
James has actually played well since coming in for him. I think he fits O'Brien's offense a little bit better than Castellanos, which is why Castellanos is scoring on.
I'm starting to kind of believe that maybe
addition by subtraction.
Been playing all along.
It's addition by subtraction. I think Boston College is going to turn that thing around.
And there's no disrespect to Castellanos.
I think he's a really good quarterback. I think he was
steady
system for him.
But Grayson is a little bit more dynamic, I think, in his approach. UNC Wake Forest did exactly what we expected them to do.
You are correct.
It was
a pick'em of the pick'emest games.
It was a pick'em of the pick'emest games, and UNC I'll say they outlasted Wake Forest, in that one. And then in I believe games, I told you guys this was going to get ugly.
Well, you said it was a layup.
You said it was a layup. Me and Charlie both said it was going to be difficult playing at night in Wisconsin.
Remember I said it could be either one. I said it could be a layup or it could be, listen, Wisconsin gave Oregon all they could stand. And if we're being honest, Wisconsin should have won that game. They had chances to win this game. And
it's one of those games where every good team has one of those games. And that was one of those games for Oregon. You knew it was going to be tough going in. You got Wisconsin to struggle, but going into that place at night, that place, I don't care how bad Wisconsin is, that's going to be a tough game.
And Wisconsin has a very unique fighting style. It's not normal. It's not something you normally see.
Wisconsin is still a year. Right? Yeah, I was going to say Wisconsin's still another year or two away under Fickle of him totally implementing his system. They're going to be good. Yeah, with him there because I really like him as a coach. I really liked him at Cincinnati.
They're patient.
I think they will be.
I mean, at Wisconsin, what's their alternative? Bringing Barry Alvarez out of bubble wrap again?
Right.
So they need to be patient up there, and I think they will be. I mean, he's shown flashes. It's one of those things they just haven't gotten over the hump. But
just ain't no.
Yeah, I mean, they played Alabama at home. I mean, they're getting there. They'll be there.
But I think Saturday was a good indication of they're moving in the right direction for sure.
Yeah.
Saturday was not a good indication for Tennessee.
Tennessee lived up to what I said.
They just don't play
They
big
do not play
games well. They just don't.
in the history since Peyton. Well, even when Peyton Manning was there, they just had the 1 year with T. Martin, but every other year they
it's just
in
not
big games.
Now let me say this.
Shout out to my boy T. Martin.
Let me say this. Most of the SEC teams, I don't know if they have a legitimate claim in totality to a CFP positioning. Georgia does. Georgia absolutely does.
Yeah, they played the schedule that they deserve to be in there just because of their
Georgia
schedule.
has ducked no one and has beaten the top guys in the conference. What else do you? If Georgia's not in, I don't understand your system. I'm just gonna be honest. If they're not in, I don't understand your system. Because let's lay all their resumes out and say, okay, who has a better resume than Georgia?
Right.
Based on your rankings.
Really in the country.
based on your ranking system, who has a better resume than Georgia? So I totally get Kirby Smart being upset. I totally get his rantings every weekend.
What is he upset about?
Well, he's saying that when you put his team in the rankings where they are, seems a bit. I want to say they're like, what are they? Well, the week before they were like 13th, and then this week they're 10th.
Okay.
Are they the 10th best team in the nation? Probably not.
Probably not. But my thing is, if you are, then you'll get in and get an opportunity.
I think. No, go ahead, Charlie.
Just like everyone else, the schedule is the schedule. You're in the conference that has whatever you want to say, top tier teams, because that's who they put up there.
Right.
I mean, those teams are good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, but that is your schedule. And then you choose to go out and play Clemson in the beginning of the year. That's your choice. Like, you can play some other teams, knowing that you're going to have a tough SEC schedule. But those are choices that we all have. But then, if you really want to have, your team in, you go out and win the last two games. And if you are more than likely going to be in the playoffs, you're going to host a game.
Yeah.
And if you don't get the bye, you're going to host a game. And then you go from there if you're the best team. So whatever the road is, because sometimes, we look at the NFL, the teams that have the byes normally don't get to the divisional championship game.
Right.
Very true.
Yeah. Dallas last year.
Very true.
I will give him this.
Georgia Tech, by the way, to close the season. So.
I will give Georgia this. Looking at the top 25, looking at this top 12. Yeah, they do. He does have an argument. For one, they've got Penn State ranked way too high.
Way too high. Yeah.
And then, because I would put Alabama, because just like they've only played one good team too, and they got beat at home. So
Don't fault me for the schedule that was given to me. Whatever the schedule is, whoever put it together. Somebody put it together in the conference. Like that's what they.
But I don't know.
That goes to but that lends to my argument against them, Charlie. When it comes to Georgia, Georgia's played the schedule in front of them too, and they've beaten more ranked teams.
Right. I don't think it's about faulting them for their schedule, Charlie. I think it's about the CFP has put a whatever this is analytical rating system together that says strength of schedule matters. So if it matters, then Georgia can't be number 10. If it matters. If it doesn't matter, then stop saying it doesn't. Stop saying it matters. Because it clearly doesn't matter because they have the best strength of schedule and you're saying they're the 10th best team in the country. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of weird.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. But my thing is, let's live in let's live in the now. That's what he's doing. He's living in the now. But if you go and handle your business, you'll be in the top
It'll be
5
fine.
or
Yeah.
Exactly.
or 4 or top 5, I should say. When it's all said and done. So I understand what he's doing, but if you have a team that can get there, you're crying over spilt milk.
And let's be honest, Charlie, it's the second week of the playoffs. The system, so much stuff is done to be played out. Just like you're saying, there's no use. There's no use in even really getting upset about it right now.
It isn't, but I do understand his point. I just think I agree with you, Charlie, in that it's probably going to play itself out. Now, what you should be doing is trying to make sure that Haynes King doesn't Haynes King you the last week of the season. That should be your real concern, because that very much could happen. Like Georgia Tech is a weird team, and they are just good enough to do weird things. And so,
I just think now, if we were talking previous, where it was only 4 teams, then yes.
Right.
I totally get this whole plight. But now that we have 12 teams, Georgia's one of the top 12.
Yeah,
right.
You're probably
you're right. You are totally right.
Now you're talking about a bye, a home game, or going on the road. Now, it depends on your ranking. But I think with their schedule will help them either. I don't know if they're getting the SEC championship game, but I know it'll help them get a first round game at home, which is good, as well.
And I think that might be what the lobbying is for, more so for that than to have to get in, go on the road and all that stuff. I think that's probably what he's trying to angle and do. Like, don't put me in the bottom where I got to go on the road my first weekend. Let me have that first round.
Or honestly, if he's at the bottom, in his defense, even though, like we said, it's too early to be worried about it. The way it is now, though, if they were to make the SEC championship and lose, they're out.
Yeah, and that's the other side.
But like I said, it's the second week of the playoffs. We still got
a little time.
We still got 2 more weeks of the regular season and conference titles.
Who's top SEC right now? I mean, they got Texas.
Top of the SEC, Texas is, I think.
Texas A&M.
Yeah. It's Texas A&M is number 1. Texas Longhorns are number 1, and Texas A&M is number 2, and Georgia's number 3.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Then there's Alabama.
It's Tennessee, then Alabama.
And then there's
no miss.
Tennessee to me.
Who? So So Texas could lose to Texas A&M and still make it, right? No, because Georgia has the tiebreaker, right?
No, Georgia would. Yeah, Georgia has a tiebreaker.
So Texas A&M has
that game is huge.
They have control of their path. So really, if we're being honest, the SEC championship team game will probably be decided next weekend.
So Texas A&M has 1 loss in SEC or 2?
1.
Now Texas and A&M, they played the last week of the season, so that's
Texas A&M has 1 loss. So they both know one of them is not getting in.
Watch out for Kentucky at Texas, because that's a trap game. Kentucky's having a bad season, but Kentucky has played good against the top competition. I mean, they lost to Georgia by 1 point.
Yeah,
they were right there in and at Tennessee.
Yeah.
They played to Kentucky's problem, which is befuddling to me when you're Kentucky, is how do you play down the competition? They play down. I mean, they was right there with Georgia, then turn around and get beat by 100 by Auburn. And so it doesn't make any sense. But them going to Texas, it's a trap game for Texas because the Texas A&M game is the very next week. Kentucky's bad. That could be a difficult game. Now, don't get me wrong. I totally think Texas is going to win the game, but that could be a difficult game if they're not paying attention, if they're looking.
And to that same point you just made, it's really a trap game because in addition to Kentucky being that weird team that can defensively pull an upset, but also Texas can't show their complete hand. because they know they got Texas A&M next week, and they can't just show everything. But they may all. But then the game may dictate that they may have to show more than they want to just to pull it out. So it's a very weird
Kentucky's
game.
Kentucky's defensively very good. It's
They're
the
very
offense.
good.
The offensive line has been putrid at best.
Yeah.
They've got weapons on the outside. They have decent running backs, but you can't tell because the offensive line is so bad, and we don't know what Vandegrift is because the offensive line is so bad. But Kentucky can be a scary team at the end of the season.
Well, the rest of our I Believe games were the Commanders and Eagles, which didn't kind of live up to the hype. Like the Eagles are better, and they showed the Commanders that they were.
Yeah, you're not there yet. You ain't there yet, buddy.
You're trending in the right direction, but you're not there yet. And then the Ravens-Steelers game was a very bizarre game, and I do not understand. I don't understand. I'm not going to say I don't understand Lamar in these games because he was the only reason they even had a chance. I don't understand the Ravens in these games. I just don't.
They get away from the run game every time they play one of these games.
I don't get it, but I don't know.
Derrick Henry had 14 touches for the game, and not in there on the.
Who, by the way, was averaging 5 yards a carry in that game.
He did have the fumble. But, I mean, that's an aberration. How do you not have him in there on the 2-point conversion?
Yeah, I got to believe if anybody can overcome a first quarter fumble, it's the guy who's leading the league in rushes this year. Like, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't understand what they're doing.
Yeah. And then the Bills Chief game was really good. Josh Allen. Father Lamar is going to be the MVP.
I think that run won him the MVP.
Josh Allen was like, "Hold my beer. I got something to say about that."
Yeah, that run looked like something out of a bad movie. I mean,
and what's funny is everybody's been talking about how great the Chiefs' defense was, and Josh Allen ran through that defense like they were last in the league, and I was like, God, dog, that dude he's so big.
He's so big.
You know who else is sneaky big?
He's Cam Newton.
Justin Herbert. I didn't realize Justin Herbert is
he's so tall. Yeah, he's tall.
That dude is 6'6", and I was like, God, dog, he's huge. Like, big man.
Josh Allen is Cam Newton. Let's just.
He's
Cam Newton,
without question. So with all that happening, that made last week very interesting. Charlie won the week overall at 5-2. And Kendrick went 4-3, and I went 3-3, which put us at where we are now.
I still could not tell. I know Charlie's number is first place, but I can't tell you who's. I guess you're second because I have more losses than everybody else.
Well, listen, the I Believe game is making all the difference this season for sure. Let's be very clear. It's making all the difference. Because that's what pushed Charlie where he is. Like it's taking the layup. Well, I ain't gonna say that was a layup because taking that Bills game was a 50-50, and he got that one right.
Explain it. So with the I Believe game, do we get an extra win?
You get an extra win. You don't get a loss. There's no loss to it.
So how do I have 35 losses?
You've lost more than everybody else. That's just what it is.
Math ain't mathing to me, but
no, it's mathing just fine, sir. It's mathing just fine. I can see.
I've got more games than everybody else. Period. It doesn't make sense.
Somebody in this group doesn't take last place very well. So
I'm just saying, it just doesn't look right.
It's the same last place I had last year, and
every year,
exactly.
Just like last year. Every year.
Exactly. So let's move on. There you go.
I don't question the last place. I question how many games I've got compared to everybody else.
Now he wants to file a formal complaint, Charlie.
Yes. I need it. I'm filing a formal complaint to the commissioner.
All right, so
he is the commissioner.
I know. I know. That's why I'm taking it
to
the higher court.
Numbers, and you can do them yourself.
I'm taking it to the higher court.
I'm gonna get a letter to the Supreme Court here shortly, right?
I'm sure their cabinet was fine with me.
Help us, God. This is funny. All right, so
Linda
we're
McMahon
going to
is
this
over
week's
education.
games. We're going to this week's games here. And it starts tonight with NC State and Georgia Tech. Once again, the definition of a pick'em game. This for sure could go either way, but it is Georgia Tech at home with Haynes King.
We're going with Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
I gotta believe Georgia Tech is going to pull this one out.
They better.
Now, having said that, it would not shock me at all.
Not at all.
It would not shock me at all. In a game that probably meant a lot more 2 weeks ago than it does now.
It's amazing. It's amazing. 2 weeks ago, this game had all kind of ACC implications. Now it means absolutely nothing.
Didn't Louisville? Now Louisville may feel a way about Pitt in the sense of they may want to get some get back here, but other than that, that's about the only thing left.
At this point, you're just trying to keep from finishing the season on a bad note, and
right?
So, I think it's in your senior day. The weather's gonna be decent, but not great.
Yeah.
So weird 4:00 start. I'll go with Louisville just because it is senior day, and it's at home.
Yeah, Louisville. They still have offense, so that gives you hope to know that they can at least score. Pitt.
It could be a shootout.
I'm not sure. I mean, they scored 20 points the other day at home.
Yeah.
They had a bad first half, which kind of helped that. But even in the second half, they did enough with the momentum from the crowd and all of that. So I'm going with Louisville.
And I don't think Holstein is playing. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think he's playing.
The backup play, all right.
Well, the only reason I bring that up is because I think with a week's tape, I think it'll be interesting to see what Louisville does.
I know the fans will get mad at me, but it's going to be interesting to see what the crowd looks like because Louisville's crowds are fickle. Their fans are fickle for their games. Yep. So
they're going to thin out.
It might be a half full. It might be a half full, especially if the weather is cold, like it's supposed to be. This might be a half full stadium. Yeah.
Wake Forest and Miami. I gotta believe Miami's gonna take this in a route, in the sense that
they're not gonna route them.
Into the tunnel.
Miami doesn't route anybody. I'm going with Miami, but it won't be a route. If a route for them, it's 2 touchdowns.
I do think this is going to be a route, though, Kitty. And the reason, just because now the style points are starting to matter more, and I think they're going to attempt to try to run it up.
Attempting to run it up with that quarterback as good as he is, and the way he loves throwing interceptions. Yeah, they'll win, but I don't think it's going to be.
This is also his only. He only has a couple more shots at any. Like, I think Travis is going to win the Heisman, but if he wants to make any attempt at trying to get it, he's got to beat up a team that is beat up.
That's the part that scares me, though, because I think he'll take more. I feel like if that's his mentality, it may not even be his mentality.
I don't think it is his mentality. I don't think it is his mentality. But it may be his team's mentality. Like, his coach may be saying, from a recruiting perspective, there's a lot of factors that play in the team. When you're playing a team, and Charlie, you can speak this better than Kendrick and I can. Right. But when you're playing a team that is a potential stat type team, we can get our stats update. And you got a kid that's sitting in front of a Heisman, because you can argue that he's number 2, maybe number 3 to Genty, maybe.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Genty. A good day could put him back in the conversation.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not your thought process as a player or even as a coach. One of the things you want to do is you want to start especially if you still have a legit chance of winning the ACC, one, and then two, in the CFP, getting an opportunity in the playoffs. You want to be playing good football on both sides of the ball, or in the kicking game. So to me, their real focus should be how can we get back to playing solid football on
Hmm.
both sides of the
100%.
football as we progress. And then if the Heisman piece happens, that's all great. But we can't go out of character.
Hmm.
It's not out of character for them to put everything on Cam, but um,
That's been the season.
right, we can't think about that part. Like
Right.
if he's having a great day, because if he doesn't have a great day and and they end up winning, handily because the run game took off, and they were able to find something in that, and he didn't have like 300 yards, but he had like 200 yards and four touchdowns, 200 plus yards and four touchdowns, no interceptions. To me, it's about playing well as opposed to numbers. And the numbers are happening because they have them, but
Yeah.
you want to be playing well.
They can't go in the mentality with trying to force it and trying to run up his numbers because
Right.
that's just begging for turnovers if you go at it that way.
Yeah. I'm assuming we're all taking Miami here, though. This is
Oh, of
probably,
course.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. SMU and Virginia.
Tricky game.
Yeah. This is a tricky game. And
Uh,
for some reason, I want to choose Virginia.
I was thinking the same thing.
I want SMU to win because I want to see
the
them.
ACC needs SMU to win.
Yeah.
I almost don't want to send SMU that negative mojo, but at the same time, this feels like the definition of a trap game because Virginia's defense is just good enough to do enough to stop him and win this game. This is a terrible game at a terrible time of the season for SMU.
I'm staying with SMU.
Yeah, I'm going SMU as well. But boy, SMU better play some flawless football. This is no time to lose focus.
I agree.
Thank God for UConn, who's continued to be a solid contributor to ACC football, providing much needed wins for the teams.
So is UConn on the same contract as Notre Dame?
It
feels
appears
like
so.
it.
It appears so.
They should be. I mean, we've talked about it all year. I mean, they should be in the ACC anyway to make the basketball even better. So go ahead and bring them on in the ACC.
But let me say this though. UConn 7-3 this season.
Yeah.
We'll be going to a bowl game.
Yeah.
When's the last time you ever heard that said in the same sentence?
Not since they cheated against U of L that year in the AAC.
Right.
Their 3 losses are against the ACC.
Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see. I have no faith in UConn beating Syracuse at Syracuse, but
no, I'm going Syracuse for that.
But Syracuse.
Yeah.
Court.
I can't stand
this game.
UNC is so frustrating. That's so frustrating to me. Because this is the game they're going to lose. This is the game they're going to lose for sure.
I'm going Boston College.
I
like Bryson James.
Yeah, I like what he's doing. I'm like,
are we all going Boston College on that one?
Yeah, because now it's to the point now. It's like, maybe they should have gone with James all season.
It appears that way. It for sure appears that way. Well, this is a layup.
It's going past this one.
Yeah, Clemson. That's a layup.
This is a tough one.
I'm going with Duke. Virginia Tech to me is so.
They're so inconsistent.
What is happening to them this season?
That's what Virginia Tech has been for a few years now, though.
I really thought they were going to be a lot better this season, and it just has not.
And watch them come out and play like game busters against Duke.
Yeah, they'll make us both all to be.
I doubt it, but Duke's been consistent all year.
Duke's been consistent. Duke has been consistent, so we're all going Duke there.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to take my cues from Charlie on this one. Because
we got to beat Charleston Southern.
I agree, Charlie.
They have one more loss than we do.
Oh man, that's not helping, Charlie.
So
This is a pickle. This is a pickle.
That's not helping me. God,
we have to beat Charleston Southern.
oh Charlie, you gotta
they
give me
have
something
one
more
more
than
loss
that,
than
bro.
They're 1-10.
That's right.
It's a pick'em, Charlie.
Oh,
It is not a
this is
pick'em
not
game.
good.
It's a
This is
pick'em.
not good.
We're gonna pick FSU. That's the pick'em. It is not between
Oh,
both
man.
teams.
It's a pickle. I'm gonna flip a coin.
Charlie, I don't know if I can. Charlie just gave me. They have one more loss than us, so surely we're better. I don't know if that's the one. I don't know if I should go off that.
It's a trap game because they have Florida next week.
Our guys will play well on Saturday. Yes, they will.
Oh man.
He's speaking it into
I
existence.
am not letting you guys speak negatively about
We're not speaking.
Florida
We haven't said anything. We're
against
just trying
Charleston
to.
Southern. That's 1-10.
Jacob, you spill
I
our pain.
refuse.
Jacob feels our pain out there. Oh man. Okay.
No, you're not. Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead. Pick Charleston Southern in.
I'm gonna look up the
Go
spread.
ahead.
I'm gonna look up the spread.
The spread is
Don't worry about the
actually.
spread.
I think
Go
it's even.
Go with your heart.
I think it's even. I think it's an even spread.
Yeah. Go with your heart. So I can gain a game.
There's
on
no
you.
line on this game. That's where
That's
we
right,
are.
'cause
There's
Charleston
no
Southern-
line on this
Charleston
game.
Southern's not D1 or FCS or whatever. I don't think.
Okay, so that's what I got to base it on.
I'm going with Florida State.
Oh no,
Yes.
go.
I'm going with Florida State because they're at home.
I can't believe we're here. I can't
Yes.
believe this is where we are.
Sometimes you have to go there. You have to be where your feet are.
You have to be, boy. You said something there, boy.
Mhm.
Sometimes you got to be where your feet are. That is facts, Charlie. Okay, and then Stanford and California. This will actually be a fun game.
Yes,
It's a good thing for sure because Stanford played much better. I think they've been playing much better the last few weeks.
they found a go-to receiver. That's for sure. And they're freshmen.
They're pretty
California.
inspired right now.
Get his name. He deserves.
California
a
is.
shot.
They play well enough to lose. I mean, that's been their MO all year.
And Stanford would
Mhm.
love to keep California from getting their 6th win.
I think both of them should go back to the Pac-12, but
No question about that, Charlie.
I have a feeling that's on the way. They'll go back, and then the ACC will probably finally get UConn.
Yeah, get
officially in
UConn.
the conference.
Here's the deal. You know what? I think I'm going Stanford on this one. I just think they found some inspiration last week. I think that momentum's going to carry them into a wildly inconsistent California team.
Emmett Mosley. That's the kid's name. I was looking up the receiver
Yeah.
for Stanford.
And 14 and a half
Against
seems like a
Louisville.
lot.
Against Louisville, he had 13 catches for 168 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Wow.
Meanwhile, but hold on. In their previous 4 games, he had 14 catches total. For 116 yards and 0 touchdowns.
I wonder why it took him so long to figure out he was on the team.
I don't think that was a problem. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Well, which way you guys going? I'm going Stanford on that one.
I think I'm gonna go Cal.
Okay.
They're at home.
go Stanford.
Okay.
Maybe I can make up some ground.
There you go. All right, so there we go. I believe games this week are not the easiest, gentlemen. I'll tell you that in advance. We got Indiana, Ohio State. Couldn't stay away from that one if we tried. Had to get that one up there.
What if
BYU?
2?
Huh?
If 5 beat 2, how far does 2 drop?
5. I think they flip flop. I think Indiana might move all the way up to number 1 if they win that game.
I think it's very possible Indiana could be number 1 team in the nation when this is all said and done. BYU, Arizona State is a very, very critical game to the whole. And BYU coming in a little bit wounded, not playing well the last few weeks. Vanderbilt, LSU is very interesting from the perspective of, is this the game that cost Brian Kelly his job? I don't think so, but it's interesting. It's very interesting. And then our final 2 games, 49ers, Packers. And then, of course, can't stay away from the Harbaugh Bowl. Ravens, Chargers on Monday night should be a really classic game. Gentlemen, which way are you going for your I Believe game this week?
What was the second game?
The second game was BYU, Arizona State.
I'm going with Arizona State.
Listen.
BYU, because I want Colorado to.
So
that
it has nothing to do with the actual game itself.
that part for sure. I don't think this is out of the realm of possibility, though, Charlie. I honestly feel very much the same in that
Arizona State is playing at home, so
they're playing at home and they've been playing some really good football coming down the stretch. So
they actually have a team that looks like they could compete.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. So this wouldn't shock. Now, I'm not staying up to watch
that though. Jay Daniels played at Arizona State.
Yeah, he did.
Ironically, right?
They play to win the game.
Yes.
Even if they fire their coach on the field.
Where you going there, Kendrick Haskins?
Let me go. I'm gonna go to the NFL.
All right. 49ers, Packers, or Ravens, Chargers?
I'm gonna go 49ers, Packers. I think the 49ers right the ship and go into Green Bay and win that. I think Green Bay is kind of teetering right now. And the 49ers are getting healthy. They lost that game on Sunday, but they are starting to get healthy. And so I'm going to go with the 49ers over the Packers.
Okay. All right.
At Lambeau?
At Lambeau.
In the frozen tundra of Lambeau.
What time is that game? I think it's like a 4:00 game, right?
I think you are correct, sir. Let's see real quick. We'll take a look at it real quick. Yes, they got the late game. Yeah, they got the late game.
It'll be cold, but it won't be that cold. I'm gonna go.
You'll be fine.
It gets cold in San Francisco too.
Though I have the sneaking suspicion that Vanderbilt is going to upset LSU.
I do too. I really do.
It just feels inevitable at this point.
And the funny thing is, I think LSU fans want that.
I think they do too. I think they're sick of Brian right now. But I think I'm also going to stay away from that game. And I'm actually going to go. I'm going to take the arrogance. Give me Indiana over Ohio State.
Okay.
I'm going with the arrogance. Indiana.
It's not a loss.
I guess what I'm saying, Charlie, is Indiana is going to go into that game because nobody expects them to win. Everybody in the nation is going to say they're not supposed to be there anyway, which is the perfect coaching motivation for a team that's on the rise. Ohio State and Ryan Day is playing with all of the pressure. And I think that might be the difference in the game.
And Indiana already locked up Signetti with an 8-year extension.
He has nothing to lose. Nothing. So whereas Ryan Day could possibly have everything to lose. So This will be interesting. So I'm gonna take Indiana in this one.
Ohio State has how many losses?
1 at Oregon.
By how many points?
What was it? 3?
3. It was 3.
Yeah, that's fine.
But we all know Ohio State is notorious for overreactions. They have every coach they've ever fired in my lifetime has had a winning record at Ohio State.
They lost at
winning record.
They lost at Oregon by 1. It was 32-31.
Oh, it was 1. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Ohio State will fire a coach in a New York minute.
So why is the pressure on Ryan Day?
Because
Ohio State.
He's supposed to beat Indiana.
They're not supposed to lose a game. They're supposed to win a championship every year. They've only won like 1 or 2 in my lifetime.
There's 2 things that's supposed to happen in Ohio State every year: win a championship and beat Michigan.
Hey, hasn't done either one of them.
And he
was a part of one of them, wasn't it?
It does not matter to those fans. It's just like Alabama
coordinator.
Being a part of it and actually doing it is 2 different things in Ohio State.
It does not matter there. It's like DeBoer in Alabama. He's on thin ice already.
Which is wild because, well, anyway, it's a whole other conversation.
They playing well now.
It's a whole different world out there. Yeah, now until they lose.
But there are people that want him fired, by the way.
But they're recruiting well too.
They don't care.
DeBoer is going to be fine. DeBoer is going to be fine. If they leave him alone, he'll be fine.
Yeah, caveat.
That's half the battle. Is people start speaking evil over you, and
I mean, Brom's getting it here.
He's
a Louisville boy. Oh my God! After the way they lost, oh yeah, he's been getting it here.
But that was a bad loss, though. That was a horrible loss. That's not good.
Yeah. That was a Satterfield-esque type of loss.
Yeah, that was bad. That was bad. All right. Well, listen. Let's can we give a collective BLEAV in the ACC shout out to? I don't even know how to categorize him. Maybe one of the. He's definitely in the top 5 of greatest coaches of all time, regardless of it's men or women. In Gino Ariama.
Gino? Yeah, we can give Gino a shout out.
But I'm not 100% sure I'm not putting him in the top 3. Like he's just really stinking good. Like and to me the most amazing part about who he is that he's decided this is who I am. This is what I want to do in my life. And yeah, I know I could take any coaching job basically I want in the world, but this is what I want to do. I love that about him. I love what
I love about Gino is whenever I've run into him or whatever, whenever I've had the chance to interview him or whatever, he's just a nice guy. He's funny.
Great guy.
He I don't think his persona gives that off.
It does not. It does not. It's not until you meet him.
Jacob.
Yeah. John L. Smith. That's funny. It's not until you meet him, and I think I met him the first year Breonna Stewart played in the Yum, and that was when I met him. I was like, he comes across as someone who justifiably should be arrogant, but he's not. He's not that at all. He's just a good guy.
I interviewed him the first time UConn played in Louisville, and that was at Freedom Hall.
Yeah,
and then they're really at the top of their powers then.
Oh yeah, they would.
I get sent over there. I'm just a photographer at that point. I'm not even a reporter at that point. I get sent over there to interview him. And could not have been nicer. He was in awe of playing in Freedom Hall. He knew all the history of Freedom Hall and everything, all the Final Fours have been played there, and just the history of Louisville basketball, and could not have been nicer.
Yeah.
And then the other time I ran into him one-on-one was at the Ryder Cup, I believe it was. Yeah, it was the Ryder Cup when it was in town. And it was the practice rounds, and I look over amongst the crowd, just standing there by himself, just chilling. It's Gino. Nobody really realized it was him. And I just went over and sparked the conversation, and he could not have been nicer. We walked and chatted for a little bit. He just really nice guy to just when you think about
I'm a Gino
everything he's done.
Yeah, I'm definitely a Geno guy. So, so I think that's a fair collective shout out for today. Winner of the winningest coach. Is it just women or is it everybody? I think he's winning is of everybody, right? Or is it just women?
I think it's just the women.
It's just
I'm
the
not
women.
sure.
Okay, all right. But still, phenomenal guy. Just could not be better ambassador for women's college basketball and sports in general. Just
Yeah,
a really,
sports in general. Yeah.
yeah, sports in general. So, gentlemen, I'd like to go first if you don't mind for the shout outs. I selfishly would like to shout out the team that I professionally root for, my New York Giants.
Come on, man.
No. I have to do this, Charlie. This has to happen.
Yeah,
This has to happen.
Don't be throwing shade on my man.
Thank you, Giants, for finally doing what is right. Now, this is probably going to cost you both your jobs.
Finish him.
Right.
They done dropped that. They done dropped that man down to 4th string.
You cannot tell a person anymore that we don't want you anymore than to drop him to 4th string reps. So they're saying, regardless of how bad the rest of the season is, you
are not
never
playing
touch the field again.
You just
They even brought in a new quarterback this week to be the 3rd string guy. That's how bad it is but guess what? As Giants fans, we ain't mad at you. Now, ironically, some of the team is mad at it. There's been some backlash from it.
I'm sure. I mean, Daniel Jones seems like a nice enough guy. I'm sure
I
he's
think
got
he
some
is.
guys.
Matter of fact,
I'm sure he got some guys that has his back in that locker room.
Well, ironically, one of the guys that has his back is revealed this week his best friend, Dexter Lawrence, which probably don't want to make the best player on the team frustrated. But
he ain't going nowhere.
With that being said, this is not the wrong decision.
No.
This is not the wrong decision. And I also want to give a shout out to both the Cowboys and the Giants because now on Thanksgiving Day, we have the great quarterback battle of Cooper Rush versus Tommy DeVito, which is what everybody expected at the beginning of the season. So there you go.
I ain't watched that game.
You can't make this stuff up. So that's one of my shout outs. And then the other shout out is a shout out of warning to the great Netflix. Let me just warn you right now.
The NFL is coming.
The NFL crowd and the WWE crowd is not nearly as forgiving as the Tyson crowd. The Tyson crowd was sorely disappointed, but we've had our run with Tyson. We're fine. We didn't expect much from that fight anyway, so the fact that we had to buffer our way through it, not a big deal.
And once the fight actually started, it was fine.
Right. But if you mess up Beyonce on Christmas Day, along with the football game,
with the Chiefs,
right? Along with the football game, in the words of that great movie, there will be blood. I'm just telling you,
because if you mess that up, you getting the Beehive and the Swifties,
which is not the rap that you want to endure. I can promise you that, sir.
They better be on the phone with Amazon right now. How does this work? Why do you not have any problems? Because I hire whatever company that Amazon uses, because I'm sure it's a company they're hiring out. They have to figure it out.
I'm sure there was an early morning meeting on Friday night, Saturday morning, with anyone remotely involved in that process of streaming.
I'm sure Goodell was in on that call too, because Goodell don't want any problems either.
Oh yeah, one of the things they may have to file bankruptcy if this does not go well. So that's my other shout out. That's going to be interesting to see how they manage that. But you got 30 days to figure it out. So there you go. All right. I'm a little smarky today, aren't I?
It's Thursday. You want to go ahead, Charlie?
Yeah, I only have one. I want to shout out my man, Mike Tyson. For dude's 58 and he got in the ring and actually competed in some form of fashion. I didn't understand, like, why the man bite on his glove.
It's Mike
But
Tyson.
after I was thinking about it, that's very intimidating because if you
True, you're right.
That is true, Charlie. That is very true.
if you see a man biting on his gloves while you're boxing and fighting him, that's like, man, that dude crazy.
And by the way, Charlie had the greatest answer to why he did it at the end of the fight. Why are you biting on your glove? I have an oral fixation. It's the great. That is the most Mike Tyson answer of all time. I have an oral fixation. You guys didn't know? Did you not see me in the Holyfield fight? That's what I do.
Yeah. Right.
So I just for the old guys, because I'm only 4 years younger than Tyson. So for the old guys, I just appreciated him putting the time in. Actually looked like he'd been training, and so that was commendable. So shout out to Mike Tyson for holding it down for the 50-something.
Charlie, you were overcome blood clots and some other things. Like, rough to get to that fight.
Yeah. Charlie, I mean, exempt from humble flexes.
Okay.
Lloyd, he's exempt.
Okay.
He's exempt from a humble flex.
Okay.
You were in New York during Tyson's run. You have any run-ins with him?
I know he was at a few of our games.
Mm-hmm.
A few of our games. So, but I don't remember meeting him anywhere.
Can we scold Netflix just a little bit? If you're gonna do an interview with Tyson, can we do a fully dressed interview like that? Come on, that was unnecessary.
I kind of feel like that may have been staged.
It may have been. I don't know. I don't know why he did it, but
This the one after the game? I mean, after the fight?
No.
Before the fight, when
this is a pre-fight interview.
His son was interviewing him in the locker room, and after the interview, he kisses his son on the cheek and turns around and walks off, and his bare behind was on national television.
Which nobody asked for that. Let me just.
I mean, it looked like a spoof. He had. Basically, it was like a jock strap, basically. And so,
and I mean, gave us the full moon.
It looked like
that part.
It looked like a parody out of like Naked Gun or something like that. It looked like something that would happen to one of those types.
Charlie, you are glad you missed that part.
Yes,
because
you could have done without it.
Those of us that did not miss it. The one time I needed it to be buffering, it wasn't buffering.
Well, it'd have been our luck if it did buffer. It'd have frozen right there on that shot.
Right. Crazy, but anyway, go ahead, Kendrick.
All right, my shout out. I mean, I'm sure you're not, but my shout out goes out to my cousin Brent Haskins, who passed away last Friday. He was for NBA fans. He was an advanced scout for the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's been a scout for a long time. He's not this past Olympics, but the Olympics before that. He scouted for that Olympic team. Of course, his dad is Clem Haskins, who played in the NBA and coached college basketball for a long time. Brent and I were relatively close, and we stayed in touch with each other over the years. And he's had his health issues in and out of the hospital for a little while now. And so just shout out to him, shout out to the family, and, thoughts and prayers to Clem and the rest of the family.
Yeah, we send our thoughts and prayers to you as well, Kendrick. Along with your family, man. We'll be praying for you guys. And tough stuff, man. It's always tough when you lose a loved one like that. So yeah, we
appreciate you, Jake.
Yeah. It's I love what to kind of bring it to sports again. The irony of the passing is that, and because he was a scout, is that he has clearly done his job well. Because look at this Cleveland team, and I'll be honest with you, they look like a team, especially coming out of Tuesday's game. They look like a team that is going to be a problem for the Celtics. I'm going to tell you something. Celtics shot 25 threes in the game.
They made like 25 threes, yeah.
Yeah, and they barely won that game.
Mm-hmm. They were up big. Cleveland came fighting back. When Donovan re-signed with them, for one, I think it legitimized them, and I think it. I like to let the team know, like, okay, Donovan is taking us seriously, because Donovan easily could have walked. New York would take him in a heartbeat, and so he's a New York native, and so they have with him, Mobley, and Jared Allen, and Garland. Yeah. They've got a good, strong core. Need Garland to get a little bit more consistent. He was terrible in that Celtics game.
Yeah.
If he can get a little bit more consistent, or they can get another I think they think they could still use probably another wing. But other than that, they are legit. They're going to be a tough out in the playoffs.
I think Garland is the key. His maturation is the key. If he can start to find that confidence, because to me, Tuesday was a confidence thing. I think once he started missing, he kept missing, and he couldn't shake missing out of his head, because all the shots at that point were a little short. They were some of them were rushed, and then he's forcing the issue. He's not letting the game come to him anymore, and it was just a confidence issue. He'll get past that. It's 82 games in the season. You learn from one, and
he's in his second, third year of the league, so he'll get it.
And he'll get it. But wow, what a legacy your cousin leaves behind, because I think they're the real thing.
Yeah, I'm now a quasi Cavs fan. They put out a nice letter, post on social media for Brent, and so I'm quasi. So now I'm a Cavs and a Grizzlies fan until Ja Morant leaves Memphis, and so
we're done with that. Right now,
I'm done with that. I'm following Ja. So NBA's been fun to watch so far.
It's been fantastic. No pun intended.
NBA Cup.
NBA Cup is interesting. It feels like they're taking it seriously.
It's weird.
Last year it didn't feel like they did, but it does feel like they're taking it seriously this year.
It's weird because it feels like they gave a league that was decently competitive. They gave it an infusion of purpose all of a sudden, and now the two things that everybody questioned, the cup and also the play-in have worked phenomenally.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I think last year that nobody really understood the cup. So I feel like the players took it as kind of a contrivance. And I mean, honest with you, I still don't understand the cup. I still don't understand how they have this cup thing and still everybody plays the same amount of games at the end of the year. But I think they
incorporated. They just incorporated the games. They're just giving them more meaning. Put them in groups and those types of things. So I mean, it's really, I'm not say simple, but it is a simple factor, because these games that they're playing will be games that they would normally play.
Normally playing anyway.
They just added
the cup to
something to play for. And so I think to me, it just goes to show that you have to keep evolving.
Yeah, exactly.
To keep people interested in your product, because they saw that during the regular season, the players were just going through the motion. It was a job, and some of the games were competitive, some weren't. But when you add this to the mix, it gives you that these games do matter. Like they're playing for something. And so I just thought it was brilliant. Then the play-in, it just opens it up for more teams to have access to the playoffs, and
it gives March meaning.
100, like people who are on the cusp of making it, those last 5 to 6 games are meaningful now. Before, if you were 10 team, I mean,
you shut it down.
You shut it down.
Yeah,
10th, 11th,
yeah.
And so I just think it was brilliant by whoever came up with all these different things. And of course, people were like, "Well, this is not going to be good for the players." And I mean, players adapt. I mean,
They'll be fine.
yeah, that part. And then the fans, of course, they want their money's worth.
Right.
So
Right. And it's been a playoff. It felt like a playoff atmosphere in just about all of these games.
right.
And like I said, it made March matter because it felt like forever that the NBA just conceded March to the NCAA. But now with the play-in, granted, the play-in doesn't start until April,
Right.
but those last few games have
The
meaning.
last few weeks
They've got-
matter.
They've got stakes on them. So
Yeah.
and I do like last year. I don't even think the players really understood the NBA Cup last year, but now
No.
they do. Now they do, because like they say in interviews last year, like I don't understand how this thing works.
Right.
But now that they kind of get it, I think they're into it. I mean, all of it comes down to players buying into it, and it does feel like the players have bought into it. It was the same with that play-in with the turn, and of course that started during COVID, but still. Once the players bought into it, it made it more exciting. So more than anything is getting the players to buy into it. Now the next step is the All-Star game.
Well, and I hear some interesting things coming out of that conversation as well. We'll get into it at a later date. But yeah, I 100%. And again, also shout out to the veterans in the league who are probably taking the lead on getting the buy-in as well on both of those things. Although I still don't think they love the play-in, but it's a viable path to the playoffs, so they're not fighting it anymore. But they're bought into the NBA Cup for sure, and it's awesome. Which, by the way, one last shout out. Shout out to the Lakers for doing it. Well, not even the Lakers. Shout out specifically to LeBron James, who masterfully communicated why Dalton Connect is a Laker. It had zero to do with the brilliance of the Lakers at all.
Right.
That had nothing
LeBron
to
hit
do
the
with
nail on the head on that one.
I was like, that is the greatest answer of all time because Lakers didn't do anything to get Dalton Connect except wait for Dalton Connect to fall right into their head.
They never thought they was going to get him.
So
And
what did he say?
He said the Lakers didn't do anything to get Dalton Connect. 16 other teams just effed it up. Which
Accurate.
there's a lot of truth to that because the kid's been brilliant.
Yep.
The kid has
And
been
he knew
brilliant.
he would be. He knew he would be.
Yeah.
He was a good
And
player.
by the way, the thing I'm hearing as to why he didn't get picked by most of those teams, his age.
His age.
Because he was a 4-year player.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, see
Yeah.
that
I knew you'd like that, Charlie.
yes.
So there may be some
And
execs that are going to get fired by the end of the year because that was a
And
massive screw up.
That's why they're picking at the top.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's the same teams up there every year, Charles. Same teams up there every year, still never any good.
If that kid wins Rookie of the Year and it appears that he's going to, maybe some GMs about to lose their job because that was a layup. If you watch
it wasn't like he came from some school nobody's ever heard of. I mean, he was balling at Tennessee.
That was a layup that they all missed.
Yep.
So no, I can't give Rob credit for that one. That just fell into his lap and he didn't mess it up. I agree with LeBron. So all right, guys, have a great weekend. I think next week we'll get into a little bit of preview for for ACC basketball.
We're gonna take next week off because next week is Thanksgiving.
What's Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
See y'all too. So no, we won't be doing anything next week. I just dawned on me. Just dawned on me what next week is. You're absolutely correct. So we won't be here next week. So when we come back the week after, we will have wrapped the ACC season. We'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about ACC basketball going forward. So with that being said, we love you guys. Have a great holiday week, and this is Believe in the ACC, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You've been listening to Believe in the ACC with Charlie Ward, Lloyd Spence, and Kendrick Haskins. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share from the Noisemakers page on Facebook and on YouTube. And you can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, and wherever podcasts can be heard. And join us